In this sick bay today is my 02 Jeep Wrangler. I got to change a serpentine belt, idler and tensioner. I'm changing them both at the same time. It's the tensioner pulley that's squealing, but they're not that expensive. I might as well change them both. This repair is very similar for all vehicles with a serpentine belt. Some have more stuff in the way, some have less. This one is pretty tight quarters. My truck is pretty open quarters. This applies to not only this, but most every modern vehicle out there. So this is your serpentine belt. This is your alternator. This is the idler pulley. Notice that pulley is looking really rough. Then right here is my tensioner. So they're not always this close together. Sometimes one's on one side, one's on the other. You'll usually have some sort of a sticker showing you where it's supposed to be. In my case, that sticker has seen better days. We can see how it works around. I've actually pulled up the shop manual. I'll put it right here. And it's different for if you have air conditioning or not air conditioning because of an extra pulley. But basically, your serpentine belt drives everything. So back in the older cars, you had multiple V-belts. So you might have 2 or 3 V-belts. Now we use these big wide belts that are ribbed. So this belt is ribbed on one side. So that way, pulleys like this will have all the teeth on them. And then on this side, it's flat so that it can run backwards on a pulley. So V-belts don't run backwards. They all basically make a large circle-ish shape. Serpentine belts go backwards and forwards. And I mean, it's like the Wonka belt. But that's what we got to replace. And we've got to put it back the way it goes. It will usually only go one way, but sometimes it can go 2. That's why it's very important to look at that diagram first. If your sticker looks like mine or it's completely missing, you can look up online. The internet is your friend here. So you would type in your year, make, model. So in this case, I would type in 2002 Jeep Wrangler TJ serpentine belt. And it will give me all that information online. It's all freely available out there for every vehicle on some site somewhere. So step number 1 is to remove all the tension from this belt. On these tensioners, every one that I've seen so far has a square for a 1/2-inch drive ratchet. This one's a flex head. You don't have to have a flex. It's a straight shot. This is just my longest ratchet. I've got longer breaker bars, but this is my longest ratchet. And I prefer a ratchet because that lets me adjust my positioning so I can get in there. Oh, and that's going the wrong way. So I need a few more clicks. That's why I prefer a ratchet. I don't want to put my fingers in between this belt and this pulley as I'm doing this, because if something were to slip, then I'm potentially losing a finger. Not good. Okay, belt's off. Now I have this bar in my way, and I can't take all the tension off of that tensioner. But I'm gonna go ahead and just pull this pulley off. Just if I was doing one pulley, I wouldn't. But doing 2, I just want it out of my way. Okay. So sometimes what I can do is put another tool in there, which allows me to remove the tension and remove the tool. There. For the idler. And what's the difference in a tensioner and an idler, you might ask? A tensioner actually tensions the belt, makes it tight. An idler just puts another bend in the belt, another radius. And sometimes it's so that another pulley has more friction on it. That is an idler. They shouldn't sound like that. And then this tensioner over here takes a 40 millimeter on this vehicle. It torques because it's a Jeep and Jeep likes torques. Just very carefully remove the bolt and try not to drop anything that you're going to have to pick up later. Or just drop it. So there's the tensioner. You see it's got 2 pieces here. Those nubs go in right here, so they position it so it can only be a certain way. And then there's marks there. I've not seen all tensioners have these marks. There's marks that show, like that's the initial tension, that's the max tension, or vice versa, one or the other. I generally don't ever look at that, but that is really cool that they put that in. Now time to get the new stuff. I always like to double check and make sure that everything looks right. And then I really prefer dropping things on the cold floor. I gotta get this bolt out. Looks like they just held it in with an O-ring, which actually is pretty dang smart. Hobbity cabbity. So stick that. See, this is why I like to check. So see, that sits down all the way on the old one. Does not sit down all the way on the new one. It'll be what it'll be. Because this one is made with the shoulder, this one is not. This is what you get when you order outside parts. Sometimes they're not made 100% specs, and you just got to deal with it. Notice how nice and quiet that is. That's not. So it looks like this just unscrews. Okay, that fits in all the way. That's good. So far, this part's looking good. Not liking that. Maybe that'll suck in once it gets on there. Click, click. Okay, there's a little bit it can deflect. Well, we'll see. We'll see how long these parts hold up. What is that? Open. That's the other thing about working on your own vehicle. When you see something that's not right, you can fix it. And you don't charge yourself for it. Alright, that's on there. Seems good. Now just get the belt routed. Put some tension on that. Slide it over. So like I said, any of these pulleys that have these grooves on them, you know that this groove side of the belt is going on them. And these pulleys that are flat, you know the back side of the belt's going on them. So if you're ever routing the belt and you have to put a flat on a groove or a groove on a flat, you're doing it wrong. So fix it. I've got this printed out. I'm the 4-liter with AC. So the big, crankshaft pulley comes around, that pulley back down, the AC back up. There's my idler, there's my tensioner, there's my alternator. So I'll go under and I'll do all of these. That will be my very last one. I typically always do that. Alternator is typically the easiest you can get to. So that's typically always my absolute last one, which is right here. So I'll pop under and I'll do those. All right, it is now on, and I just like to look at every grooved belt, tooth, whatever you want to call it. Pulley, rather, my bad. I just like to look at everyone, and see right there. See that? It's not on right. It's off just a little bit, so I need to get on. I could probably fix it by rotating, but that rotates the wrong way, it'll spin off. All right, now that I've verified everything, I'm gonna go bump the engine over, make sure the engine bay is clean. It is. I'm gonna bump the engine over, not let it start, hopefully, and shut it off. Verify the belt again. Okay, the engine is bumped over. Do one more check. Everything still looks perfect. All right, let's fire it up. Verify it all works. Alright. Everything works like it's supposed to. That idler looks like it's not even moving, but I'm pretty sure it is. Yep. It is. I put the end of the ratchet on it just so I could feel it vibrate through. Perfect. Alright, we are done. That is a job you can easily do yourself, just a few tools. And even if you don't have the tools, the labor price for this should actually cover you buying the tools yourself and having them for another job. So, basic socket set, like I said, you don't need flex ratchets. You don't even need long like I had. In fact, I wish I would have got my other one, a normal length. But it is what it is. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And you can always put a metal pipe over a short ratchet as a little cheater bar. So you see, it's a pretty simple job. A few hand tools, and you're ready to go. So if you don't have them, run to Harbor Freight, get them. I mean, even their Pittsburgh line, you know, it might be good for a handful of jobs. It'd take you through this. No big deal. Nothing was that tight. So, yeah, get out there and wrench on your own stuff.